Hi, everyone. I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios. I'm so glad we can spend some time together today. Let's get started with our program. Welcome to the Art of Birds. From ancient history to the present day, birds have appeared in paintings, prints, ceramics, and even entire rooms. But first, I want to thank our sponsor who makes it possible for you to see this program every month. Right at Home, Boston and North, in-home care and assistance, and AgeSpan, Choices for Life's Journey. Thank you, AgeSpan, for hosting us. Around 96 million people in the U.S. closely observed, fed, or photographed birds in the last year. They also maintained plantings and natural areas, visited public parks, and other things for the benefit of birds. That's more than 35% of our population over the age of 16 who is interested in birds. Maybe you are too. Let's start our bird watching today with a famous work of mockingbird art. Robert Havell Jr. was born in 1793 in England. His father ran a print shop in London. When John James Audubon was trying to launch his Birds of America series, he was having problems finding a good engraver. Happenstance and persistence led him to Havell Sr., who was interested in doing the printing, but didn't have the time or energy to do the engraving. Havell's son was an engraver, but the two of them had been estranged for several years. So the dad, Robert Sr., asked around among his colleagues for a suitable engraver. And one specimen engraving that he was shown was perfect. Guess who did that engraving? Yep, that's right. It was his son. That test engraving ended up being the one that he chose to use for Audubon. Audubon was delighted with the coloring, the paper. In fact, he was overjoyed. So in many ways, he saved Audubon, and Audubon saved Havell's relationship with his dad. As for the mockingbird, Audubon wrote in detail about almost every bird he painted. He said, "During incubation, the female pays such precise attention to the position in which she leaves her eggs. When she goes to a short distance for exercise and refreshment, if she should return and find that any of them has been displaced, she utters a low, mournful note." This is amazing, right? These are the words of Audubon from his diary, and he did this with every bird he painted. This is called a double elephant folio. You'll notice there are no elephants in it. It just happens to be this oversized book, which oversized, it's about 3 feet by 2 feet. From his earliest conception of Birds of America, John James Audubon intended that each bird would appear life-size alongside plants and wildlife, including other birds sometimes. The book is so large that it actually takes 2 people to safely turn the pages. Let's watch this 1-minute video together about mockingbirds.
The mockingbird is a bird native to North America, and its name comes from the word mock, meaning to mimic or imitate. When these birds learn to sing, they typically mimic other birds of the same species, which means each bird species has its distinct song. However, mockingbirds set themselves apart by learning from their surroundings. They don't just imitate the sounds of other birds, they can mimic crickets, frogs, sirens, car alarms, and even human-made music. Adult mockingbirds can have up to 350 different songs, making them one of the birds with the most extensive repertoire globally. What's unique is that, despite having a beautiful voice and the ability to imitate various birds, mockingbirds will compose their songs that are far more intricate and complex, as if emphasizing that, although it's easy to mimic others, being oneself is far more interesting.
Wow, that was fascinating. What is it about birds that makes us want to look at them more closely? Lots of famous artists have painted birds. This is a part of Monet's series of winter paintings, which depicts the effect of snow on the landscape. It is the largest among the 140 pieces he created in the late 1800s, and it's considered the best among them. Here is another picture that's not so well known, but the artist sure is. It's Vincent van Gogh. For a while, Van Gogh was fascinated with birds' nests. In 1885, he made them the subject of 5 still lifes in a row. Have you ever heard of bowerbirds? They're found throughout Australia and New Guinea, and they're famous for their elaborate and sometimes whimsical structures that males build to court the females. If my husband made this beautiful blue bottle cap nest, I would be tempted to go out with him. Absolutely. Look at that. They decorate their nests with any colorful items that they can find. Sometimes natural things like rocks and leaves and feathers or berries, and things that are man-made like coins, small bits of plastic, even rifle shells. Male bowerbirds spend a great deal of time getting their nests just so, and the females spend a comparable amount of time inspecting and appraising them. The males with the most attractive nests gets to mate with the females. Many species of the bowerbirds are superb vocal mimics, something like the mockingbirds we just heard about. One species has been observed imitating pigs, waterfalls, and even human chatter. These birds caught the attention of Charles Darwin, who wrote about them and their unusual characteristics. Now let's play this game. Finish this sentence. Birds of a feather. That's right, flock together. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You're good at this. The early bird gets the worm. That's right. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Oh, that's a cute couple there. An ornithologist is a person who studies birds. Lars Johnson is a Swedish artist, author, and ornithologist. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest living bird artists and is most famous for his beautiful watercolor paintings of birds. For Massachusetts Audubon Centennial in 1996, he created 187 watercolors in drawings, many of which were used as illustrations in the book, The Nature of Massachusetts. And you can see a couple of those here. Here's another artist from many centuries ago. This is Albrecht Dürer, and the painting is called The Little Owl. He was an early promoter of animal paintings. Now, this is a very cute small creature here, isn't it? But what's interesting to me is how this changed public perception of owls. At the time, owls were considered unclean. They were associated with darkness and even being evil. They had a bad reputation. But Dürer's portraits were kind of the opposite. People looked at them and could see them as cute little creatures. Now, sometimes we see birds in cages like this one here. Here's the little cage. Here's the little bird outside of the cage. This painting is from 1842. Here are a few birds in cages. Sometimes the birds are outdoors and free, like these lovely peacocks spreading their tails. Giuseppe Castiglione was 26 years old when he stepped off a trading ship onto the docks of the Chinese port city of Guangzhou. It was 1714, and trade with China was just beginning. He was a Jesuit missionary and a painter sent from his home in Italy to bring Jesus to the people of China. Now, news of his arrival was sent to the emperor, who summoned the artist to the royal palace. We don't know what the emperor thought of Jesus, but he sure liked his paintings. This artist spent the rest of his life in the courts of the emperor, growing close with three different emperors, documenting their military successes, their favorite horses, and their families. His paintings were prized by the emperors, who often added poems and their own calligraphy to the work. Paul Fabricius's The Goldfinch is arguably the most famous bird painting ever. It has several reasons why that's true. It inspired a Pulitzer Prize-winning book and is one of the main attractions at a museum in The Hague. Goldfinches are widespread across different continents, and around these times in the mid-1600s, people associated goldfinches with good fortune and health. People have domesticated goldfinches since the era of the ancient Romans. This bird has always caught the attention of humans. Here's a self-portrait by the artist. Most famous bird paintings have been made by ornithologists who have clear information, who are studying the birds. And we see here a painting by a woman, Elizabeth Gould. Her husband was an ornithologist, but he was not skilled in illustration or drawing. She knew he was unartistic. So according to the biography in 1893, when he turned to her and said, "I wonder who is going to be doing the illustrations," she said, "Me, of course." Lots of films have birds as a strong presence, but this is probably the most famous one. Raise your hand if you've ever seen this movie. The Birds is a 1963 horror film by Alfred Hitchcock. An animal handler trained hundreds of live birds for use in the movie, but you can also see that there are some that are very still, and these are birds that are mechanical. So they had over 200 mechanical birds. You're also noticing where the red circles are. These are animal handlers holding nets to prevent the birds from getting hurt by banging into the houses. A few years ago, Mattel unveiled a commemorative Barbie doll based on the lead female character that was played by Tippi Hedren in The Birds. I think it's pretty incredible how closely. So here on the left, we're looking at the doll, which came with three crows. What awesome accessories. And on the right, a still shot from the movie. I did not buy one for my daughter, by the way. I prefer cute, cuddly things. In Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, the director himself makes a cameo appearance, which he often did. He was known for his cameo appearances. In The Birds, his cameo is relatively subtle. He appears in the opening scenes of the movie. Here's the pet shop scene before any of the drama happens. And here's Tippi Hedren walking into the pet store. No idea what's about to take place in this town. By the way, here's Hitchcock here. And those two dogs are Joffrey and Stanley. They are really his pets. There are lots of famous books and poems about birds. This is probably the most famous of all, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of scary things, so this is more my speed. I love the story of the ugly duckling. How many of you have heard of this book? It was first published in 1843, so lots of generations of children and adults know the plot twist. If you've ever found yourself captivated by the sight of a cardinal or enthralled by an eagle soaring overhead, you've joined in one of that oldest human traditions, bird watching. History is filled with evidence of our fascination with birds, cave paintings that feature bird imagery, and this, the oldest piece of art from China. This tiny passerine, witches, and their birds that are in the songbird category, carved from a bit of bone more than 13,000 years ago. And you can see this little songbird. Here it is on the right. This is how tiny it is. That would be about the size of your thumbnail. Our feathered friends are part of more modern creations too, like these cuties, the Make Way for Ducklings statue in Boston, Massachusetts. Have you ever seen this sculpture? This huge metal chicken named Eggy is perched on a hill overlooking the Chicken Gold Camp in Chicken, Alaska, one of the few surviving gold rush towns in the state. It's a sight you can't miss within this small town. This metal statue was created by high school students from recycled school lockers. Almost 3 dozen large granite eggs line the road along the bay in eastern Iceland, each perched atop its own slab of concrete. The eggs of Mary Bay are a tribute to the native birds of eastern Iceland. Here's a giant bird perched atop this cement pedestal. This is in Minnesota, a giant, ominous blackbird. This bird currently holds the undisputed title of the largest crow in the world. This was erected at their 1988 state centennial. And inside this base over here is a little tiny self-guided museum. In that little museum are some artifacts from their centennial, and apparently you can push a button and a pre-recorded narration tells you more than you'd ever want to know about the crow and the county. Here's another beautiful bird sculpture. This is in Kerala, India. To get to the top to visit this sculpture, you have to take a cable car. The sculpture itself measures 200 feet high, and I know it's difficult, but these tiny little dots on the screen, those are the people, so you can really get the sense of scale there. It's almost time for us to wrap up, but I do want to share this artist with you. Granger McCoy makes decoys. This is another art form in itself. He takes a piece of basswood and methodically carves away. And that's not easy. The birds he carves don't come out in one stiff piece. They're carved feather by feather, each line etched with a burning tool. And here you can see a close-up of those feathers. Each feather is inserted into the body of the bird, which is carved from yet another piece of wood. The craftsmanship, patience, and artistry his work entails are beyond anything most people have ever seen. I used to carve decoys to fool birds, he says, breaking into a grin. Now I carve birds to fool people. Whether you're a night owl or an early bird, I'm so glad we could spend some time together today looking at birds. It's springtime now. I hope you're sitting near a window or able to go outside and listen to some of the feathered friends who are visiting you. A final thank you to Right at Home Boston North for sponsoring this program and AgeSpan for being our host. It was great getting to spend some time with you today. I hope you enjoyed some of the fun facts about birds. I'll see you again next month with another program, some more tidbits, and a chance for us to get together. In the meantime, take care. Get outside if you can. Pull yourself up to a window if you can. Get that window opened up and enjoy the sounds of spring. I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios. Thank you. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, my friends. I'll see you soon.